Good morning, welcome to Integrated Math 1. I'm your host, Doc Turner. Today we're going to be looking at 6.1. 6.1 is going to be giving us an intro to statistics. We're also going to be talking primarily about two-way frequency tables. We'll take a little bit of a detour in the middle to cover what just regular frequency tables look like. But let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we want to be able to do in this section is to be able to distinguish between the two types of primary data, which are either qualitative data sets or quantitative data sets. As the root words might imply, qualitative data is looking at data sets that are a quality, whereas quantitative data is looking at data that is a quantity. So anything that is numerical, that is able to be ordered, that would be an example of quantitative data, whereas anything that is a quality, so it doesn't have a number associated with it, that would be an example of qualitative data. So one of the questions in this assignment is asking you to give your own definition. Of course, you're welcome to use the textbook definition if you'd like, but I think it helps to think, again, of those root words, qualitative data being a quality, and quantitative data being a quantity. You're also asked to provide a couple examples of each of those. So again, quantitative data is anything that has a numerical value associated with it. So let's say I collected data on height or age or weight. Right? All of those have a numerical value associated with it. Therefore, those are examples of quantitative data. Whereas qualitative data is a quality. So let's say something like eye color, religious preference, location. So each of those would be a quality. So qualitative, quantitative, you want to be able to distinguish between those two. Then we get into the primary focus of 6.1, which is looking at two-way frequency tables. A two-way frequency table is looking at two sets of data simultaneously. And so typically what you'll see in a problem like this, you'll have a table, of course, two-way frequency table. You'll have a table sort of going like this, and then going along each side, you will have two sets of data that you are collecting. Now, it could be quantitative, but typically when you're looking at a two-way frequency table, the data itself is qualitative. So, for instance, let's say people who, for instance, like to read and people who don't like to read. So I could collect data on those two things. And then let's say I also, in that same group of people, I'm looking at people who wear glasses versus people who don't wear glasses. Okay. So I'm comparing two traits at the same time. That is a two-way frequency table. Now, with the two-way frequency table, and we can zoom in here a little bit. In a two-way frequency table, you'll also always have a total at the end of each row and column. So you'll have a total here going along the top, and you'll have a total here going along the side. In a two-way frequency table, each row and column should sum. So let's say I had a total of, and we're just throwing out numbers here, 100 people total that were surveyed. So anytime I add a row or a column, it should always add up to the total at the end of the row or the end of the column. So I'm just putting in some numbers here for an example. Let's say there's 35 with classes that like to read. We'll put 10 here. We'll put 30 here. We'll put 25 here. And then I'm just adding up each row and column. Now I'm just pulling these examples out of thin air. But again, each row and column should sum. So notice that 35 plus 10 gives me 45. 30 plus 25 gives me 55. 65 plus 35 gives me 100. And then looking at the columns, 35 plus 30 is 65, 10 plus 25 is 35, 45 plus 55 is 100. For the first few questions on this assignment, it's simply going to ask you to identify a given data set. So for instance, I could ask you, okay, how many people had glasses that didn't like to read? So because it's a two-way frequency table, you're comparing two things. So I would look at the columns and say, okay, going here, people that have glasses that don't like to read, that intersection is the number I'm looking for. So there are 10 people that had glasses that don't like to read. And then I could look at it again. Let's say I asked you how many people total like to read. So the total that like to read are 65. Okay. So that's the first half of your assignment, just being able to read a two-way frequency table. Then, once you have that understanding, then you could be given problems where you have an incomplete two-way frequency table and you're asked to fill it out, or you could be asked for the number that's not shown. So let's say people went to a ball game and the choices were hot dog and pizza, and to drink you could have soda or water. Okay. Of course, there's going to be a total for each row and column. Let's say there were 400 people that attended, and I tell you that 150 had soda and a hot dog. Let's say there were 200 total that had hot dogs, and I tell you there were 75 that had pizza and a water. Okay? So this table is not complete, obviously, but we know that each row and column has to sum. So there are a number of places where we could start. It's almost like trying to fill out a Sudoku puzzle, right? You're filling in the row or column that has the most information, and then once you do that, then you can fill in the other blanks. Right? So for instance, I couldn't fill in the blank right here yet, but I could fill in either here or here because I have 2 out of the 3 already filled out for me. So if a total of 200 people ordered a hot dog and 150 ordered a hot dog and soda, do the subtraction, therefore 50 had to have ordered a hot dog and a water. Then from here I can either fill in the total number of waters or the total number of people who ordered pizza. If there's 200 that ordered a hot dog and 400 people total at the park, that means 200 total ordered pizza. Then, to find out people who ordered pizza and a soda, 200 minus 75 gives me 125. Now I can tell you the total number of people that ordered a soda by adding across, and the total number of people who ordered a water by adding across. So we started out with just a few pieces of information, but knowing that each row and column have to sum, we were able to fill in the rest. That's the second half of your assignment, being able to fill in the two-way frequency table and then answering questions. So, for instance, I may just give you those 4 numbers, and then you might have a question like, how many people total ordered water? That requires you to first fill out the two-way frequency table and then take it from there. That's it for today, guys. If you have any questions, please reach out to me during office hours. Otherwise, have a good day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.